Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. It's David Hodge. Welcome. All right, brothers and sisters. We're headed to that time where your life, as you know it, is about to change forever, brothers and sisters. We're headed to the time of unprecedented trouble, which is a time like no other, and never will there be. A time where you've never experienced what's to come. And it's no way out of what's coming. It's going to happen. What's coming to America? There's nothing that anyone can do to stop it from taking place. Because this is exactly what America has done to itself. The problems, the helping hand that they've had in our destruction, the global conflicts and wars, the things that they've done, they just didn't go away. These things that are accounted for, and they're about to pay the heavy price for it, brothers and sisters. So that's why we're here, to tell you what's going to happen and give you an idea so you can prepare in your mind so it won't be a shock, a total shock to you, because this thing is about to affect everyone. What we want to do is reduce the effect that it's going to have on you, bring it to a minimum so you can recover out of it and we can move forward. So we're here to keep you focused on what's really going to happen and how it's all going to play out, brothers and sisters. All right. So the Middle East war. We explain that the war in the Middle East is not going to get better. The ceasefire is not going to last long. Things are only about to get worse, brothers and sisters. These nations, there's not going to be peace between them. The tension is back rising, brothers and sisters. The ceasefire is weak. It's worsening. It's under serious pressure, brothers and sisters. It's not going to last long. They're going to be right back at it. And now, there's new maritime incidents and military tensions, right? Which is raising fear of another escalation. A ship was seized near UAE. A vessel near their coast has been taken and redirected toward Iranian waters. And Iran says ships entering the Strait of Hormuz must cooperate with Iranian naval forces. Right? So for the meantime, some Chinese vessels are now being allowed through the Strait of Hormuz under special agreements, but global shipping and energy markets remain on edge. Trump has met with China's president, and both these leaders have agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open. They need that oil. And they're still talking about Iran's nuclear program and regional stability. So they're working on whatever they're working on, which we know, whatever America tries to do, their attempt will fail. However, the Lebanon conflict is still active. Israel and Lebanon are still going at it. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. Despite negotiations, clashes, and airstrikes linked to Hezbollah are still continuing. Regional pressure is increasing. Oil supply fears continue affecting global markets. Shipping disruption remains a major international concern. Diplomacy, peace agreement, right, is active, but military tensions remain high across ceasefire, right? The deal we're trying to do is in place, but military tensions remain high across the region. Things are on their way back to escalation, brothers and sisters. The Middle East remains extremely unstable with the Strait of Hormuz tensions, sea ships, Lebanon clashes, and the fragile diplomacy keeping the risk of things getting worse and escalation very high. Things escalating very high. So with all this being said, at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, we know how this is all going to play out. This is what they don't know. If they do know, they're not going to agree with it. Because why would you agree to your defeat, right? But we know that Iran is going to be victorious during this time because we're at the time where Michael's and his angels went to war with the dragon and his angels. So who is Michael? Michael is the God, Master Farad Muhammad. And his angels is Iran and Syria. Versus who? The dragon and his angels. Who's the dragon? The dragon is the House of Saad. And who was there? Who was the House of Saad's angels? America, Britain, and false Israel. Okay? So we established that. So we know that Michael's angels was victorious and defeated the House of Saad and his angels, America, Britain, and false Israel. We know that they won, that they win the war, which is an authority, a power and authority switch. They take over the Middle East. You see? And how do we know? Because the scripture tells you, which is in Revelations, chapters 12, verse 8 and 9. Verse 8 through 9. To tell you exactly how it goes down. It says, and not it proved strong, not but place was found of them yet in the heaven, and was thrown the dragon, thrown the House of Saad, the dragon, the great, the serpent, the archaic, the being called devil and Satan, and the Satan, America, Britain, false Israel, the making to air the being inhabited whole. He, the dragon, was thrown. The House of Saad was thrown into the earth, and the angels, America, Britain, false Israel, of him, with him, were thrown. There you go. Telling you exactly that they were defeated. You see? So America, and everyone else involved, things it's not gonna. Like I said, it's gonna fail. It's about to end tragic for them. So we know how it all plays out, right? With the God, Master Muhammad, and Iran and Syria being victorious, and it's a power switch. They take over the Middle East, gain access to the oil, which America will no longer have access to because they'll be defeated along with the outside and kicked out. And once they be kicked out, they're going to be experiencing shortage. They're going to be experiencing energy crisis here in America, which is going to eventually lead to a total economic collapse. You see? Because you need oil to run your economy. So if you don't have it, then it can't run because you literally need it to run everything in it. Everything. Cars, boats, planes, this, that, factories, everything. Right? You need it for everything. So you can't get stuff nowhere. You can't do nothing. Nothing's functioning without the oil. So that means there be no food here in America. No food. People eat all the time. No food. No water. No oil. No gas. No electronics. No this. No that. No fun time. Total economic collapse. Severe social unrest. People freezing to death. People freezing to death in the dead of winter because they don't have any energy for heating. This is the time. This is where America is headed. You see? And what you see happening in the Middle East, you're witnessing a normalization of genocide. You see destruction, chaos, women and children being killed, families being torn apart, infrastructures and buildings being blown up, constant. You see, this is what's being projected to you, right? And you're seeing all these things for yourself. But what's taking place there is going to come here, but much worse. It's going to be worse than any severe depression, any severe recession, Great Depressions, world wars, any Holocaust, any mass murderings, anything that was totally horrifying. It's going to be way worse than that. Any bombings, anything, brothers and sisters. It's going to be way worse. They said it's coming here, brothers and sisters, coming to America. And when that happens, it says that men's hearts will be failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. Right? For the powers of the heaven will be shaken. The heavens in the Middle East. The power of the Middle East. He's talking about that exchange of power and authority. With Iran and Syria being victorious in the Middle East, taking over the Middle East, says that men's hearts will be failing from the fear and the expectation. It means something hasn't happened. The expectation means they just looking at what's to come. The expectation is things happen. It's causing them to have heart failure, heart attacks. You see? So people are going to be having heart attacks, brothers and sisters, because their reality is about to be shut down. Hell is on the way, and there's nothing that they can do. So people will be just dropping dead, no matter where they are, at work, on machines, in planes, in cars, on top of stuff, they're doing construction, whatever. Man, it's gonna be people gonna be hitting things, flying off buildings. People gonna be panicking. So they make it past. If people don't have heart attacks, it says during this time, people be walking around as if they was drunk, but haven't had anything to drink. That's how bad it's about to be. Because their whole mind, they're about to find out that there's no hope. So the whatever their reality is about to be shattered. You see, their whole reality is about to be shattered, brothers and sisters. Because not only is the oil about to be gone, well, the ideology of their reality is about to be shattered. Because the world is structured around the idea that false Israel is the true seed of Abraham. So when this war kicks off, and like I explained, the House of Zion, American Britain defeated, American Britain kicked out, false Israel will be under siege. And what's to take place next is their destruction. You see? It says when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its destruction is near. Jerusalem is the capital of false Israel. So it says when you see false Israel surrounded by armies, know that its destruction is near. Not redemption, not salvation. It says destruction. Right? So we know at that point in time, false Israel is about to be destroyed. But we know that don't sound right because didn't it say when God placed them in their land, his people, right? They're supposed to be, they're not supposed to be uprooted or removed. So what does that mean if that happens? And that means that they weren't who they claim to be. So who are they? That's not supposed to happen. That's abomination. That's not supposed to happen. So who are they? I'll tell you exactly who they are. In Revelation chapters 2 and 3, verse 9, both chapters, tell you that that's Satan. It says, I am giving out a synagogue of Satan, of the ones saying themselves Jews to be, and not they are, but they are lying. See? They're lying. It says in the blasphemy, there's a lie. Out of what? Out of ones saying Jews to be themselves and not they are, but synagogue of Satan. They're the ones who have synagogues, right? They're Satan. They're the ones calling themselves Jews, right? They're lying. They're Satan. So, bam, the world's going to know exactly that they're Satan. And what they're trying to prevent from taking place is you find out who you are. Because once you find out who you are, then you rise up and they go down. You see? So they know that. And false Israel is their momentum that's keeping our people down. They're the weight on us. It's keeping us from rising because they've stolen our identity. Right? That's what they was placed over there in the Middle East for. They was placed in Palestine for that reason, to counter our claim as being the true seed of Abraham, to keep right from trying to prevent because they're trying to escape judgment, brothers and sisters. These devils trying to escape judgment. So that's exactly why they put them over there. And they try to escape judgment from what? From this. Excuse me, persons. Bam. This is what they're trying to escape judgment from. The Holocaust. What they've done to us. Our true experience, which was horror. They inflicted horror on our people, brothers and sisters. You see? For 400 years. That's what they've done. We are the people that meet this description. No one else but us. You see? And and this is why they're in trouble. Because it said, curse those who curse God's people. So, who's the people that have been cursing God's people? They have. So, guess what they did? They switched the narrative so it wouldn't seem as if that's what they were doing. So, guess what they did? They set up false Israel so they could bless them. So, guess what? Now they felt like they were blessed because now those are God's chosen people. So now we're going to be blessed because we're blessing God's people. And now they justify cursing you black. Cursing you, right, that's why they justify treating you the way you are, treating you the way in the manner that they do. Because you're black, you're cursed. See? Be slaves forever. Even in heaven, if you went, there's no heaven. There's no, when you die, there's no heaven. See, that's what they do, psychologically terrorize you, right? For fear. Even then, that's what they were saying. But, if they did you a favor that God wouldn't even do you. They were liars. Anyway, the point is, they're due consequence. And their whole thing is trying to escape consequence, trying to escape judgment, trying to, and you're the evidence of their crime, right? So the whole point is to get rid of you. You see? That's what they want to do. They want to, they have to get rid of you before false Israel goes down, because if false Israel goes down, he rises up. Now they do judgment. Then you find out who you are. You'll come after them, right? You are the judgment, literally. That's why they got to get rid of you, because you not only are the evidence, you're the judgment, literally. You're the personification of it. It said, "Do unto them as was done to you." Now you'll do it, and that's what they feared, right? I tell you right here, ain't that what they feared? They said, "Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and if war breaks out, they join our enemies in they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land." Right? So it said deal shrewdly with them. It means in a way that they don't see coming. Right? So that's why they've been dealing with us like that from the beginning since they brought us here. Right? Because they knew that this day would come. So they've been doing all these things to us, infesting our nation with demons, trying to have it all got the demon children camouflaging our nation, which is messing up our infrastructure of our people. You know what I'm saying? They messing up our body, right? It's interference. You see, interference in our communities. Keep friction and conflict and confusion, misleading our people with their demon children. They produce their children amongst us and dump them on us to cause corruption in our communities, brothers and sisters. So not only that, they incarcerate, mass incarceration, 3-strike law. They put our men in prison to stop us from having population, which population is potential power. You know, well, not only that, they sterilize our women, do abortions, birth control, such and such. You see, stop population again. Stop us from multiplying. And on top of that, they put stuff in our food to poison us. Take stuff out of it that's good for you, vitamins to keep your body deficient in things that you need to keep it from functioning properly. They put things in your environment like drugs, alcohol, bad food, processed food. Like I said, drugs, liquor, put liquor stores, drugs in the community, putting crime, setting it up for crime. You see? And now on top of that, they control and managing your energy for you, putting you where they want, putting you in environments that's hazardous to your health. Making sure that you stay in communities that's poor for your well-being. Keep you from thinking. Clouding you with the American dream, clouding you with all this, entertainment, sports, celebrities, this, that. Keeping you filled with junk. Got you on social media, scrolling and looking at stuff that's meaningless. Got you going to concerts and comedies and got you, filled up with stuff that don't really matter, brothers and sisters, keeping you pacified, watching NBA, NFL, keeping up with celebrities, and, got you doing those things, got you being staying within the program of the American dream, which is a dream. It's not real, you see? That's what they want for you, so on top of all that, they got the prison system and the jails and stuff set up around you that the system thrives off your misery. They set it up for you to have to be criminal by survival. Meaning they're taking stuff out of your environment that you need, so it means you still need it. So now you got to go out and take it. You got to go out and do something illegal to get it, which means you become criminal by survival, which they set up for their prisons and systems and things to thrive. That's how they set it up. That's how you know how many people are going to be in them. That's how you know how many to build. And that's what they do intentionally to come after us. That's how the police is made for us, to kill us, to imprison us, to do these things, stop us from thriving, stop us from multiplying, keep you in order, keep you within the program, and keep you installed with fear. Say we be slaves forever from fear. So to keep you fearful. You see? So, and they keep you pumped up with this American dream. You see? Keep you pumped up with American dream, brothers and sisters, because they want you to die. They say the people out of vision will perish. American dream is not a vision. It's a dream. It's not real. It's a nightmare. And that's why they stop you from getting your vision. Oh, excuse me, brothers and sisters. That's why they stop you from getting your vision. Right? Which is this. This is your vision. This is the Abraham covenant, which they don't want you to have. It says, in that day, God made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. So you got the river of Egypt, you got the river, the great river, the river Euphrates. Between those two coordinates is Great Arabia. And this said, that's what it said. We're getting out of here, brothers and sisters. For the 400 years that we endured of the Holocaust. It even tell you right here that it tell you. It says that when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be sojourners, meaning to be temporary in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. 1619, 2019, right? And it said also the nation whom they serve, who they shall serve will I judge, right? 1619, 2019. When you wrap up a year, 2020 come in, right? Bam. That's 400 years total. As soon as that came in, 2020, the plague dropped. Bam. Didn't even wait. It was on New Year's, so-called New Year's Eve. Right. Right. It's on so-called New Year's Eve. Bam, it was dropping. Got hit in that, boy. Right? So 2020 came in, the plague came in right on time, brothers and sisters. It didn't wait. It wasn't no delay or nothing. They said, I will judge them, and they were the ones being affected by it. They shut down the whole economy. And that's when they started killing those presidents, and they killed the president in Africa and sent over the virus and trying to make sure that blacks were affected because they weren't affected, and they weren't being affected here unless they were demons. They're demon children and the elderly. You see, we said to pass over those with the lamb's blood. Meaning you had to be original. It was passing over us. It was killing them. You see, so it came in right time. But let's focus. The point is, it says also the nation whom you serve will I judge, right? And afterward shall they come out. You see, so when they coming out with great substance. We're leaving out of here with great substance. So we're going where the land. We're going that way. And it says, but thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. And in the fourth generation, they shall come here again. For the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet full. See, so we're coming there again. We're going back to where? Back to our land. Between the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. And that's what they don't want for you. They say they want you to perish. Because if they didn't want you to perish, they would give you your vision, right? But the pastors, preachers, fake woke folk, all these people that's in the way, they're not giving you this. People that claim they love you, they're not telling you about your vision. You see? Because they're in on it. They work for Massa. They went to their schools to make sure they don't speak about these things. They can't talk about them. They'll lose their pull in the community. They'll be blocked. They'll be blocked from it. They'll stop their income. They'll stop them from being able to feed their own families and to enjoy their lives. They want to be able to do the things they need to do to thrive in their communities. If they don't do, and I mean, if they don't do it, a lot of the pastors and preachers are demons anyway. So it's in their heart because this don't extend to them because they're black-faced devils. You see, the devils in black skin. So they're not coming. You see, they're not coming with us anyway. See? Because they got they got the nature of their father, the devil father. So they wouldn't preach about something like this anyway, because it's totally against them. So they're told not to teach about these things anyway, and it's in their heart not to do it. You see? So that's the whole point, brothers and sisters. It says we're getting out of here. And that's the point. So we're headed to a time of unprecedented trouble. A time like no other, never will there be. It's about to be intense. It's about to be totally intense, brothers and sisters. No food, no water, no this, no that, no this, no that. Right? It says that it's going to be bad news after bad news. Things are just going to rain down with bad news constantly. No reinsurance of anything good. You see, and it's going to be intense. It's going to be dark. It says in this day, it says this day will bring darkness, not light. And that day will be like a man who runs from a lion only to meet a bear. Escaping from the bear, he leans his hand against a wall in his house and he's bitten by a snake. You see? So yes, the day of the Lord will be dark and hopeless without a ray of joy or hope. Like I explained, said men be walking around as if they were drunk but haven't had anything to drink. Said children be gray-headed during this time, which you've never seen in your life. Because children be afraid of their parents because their parents looking for them because their parents trying to eat them. It's going to be a famine here, no food. No parents going to be trying to eat them. So they're scared as hell. It says that a woman would give birth in silence just to eat the afterbirth and eat the child in the afterbirth. It said the most tender-hearted man won't have compassion for his wife and his children. It says that the people will be looking for death, but death never comes, wanting to die, but they can't. They be so healthy during this time that they'll sustain off piss and shit. Be literally eating shit and piss. That's all they have to drink and eat. Once everything is all gone, people be so healthy that they wish they died, but they never do. And then they said they have the sex drive of rabbits. You see, constantly they want to have sex, but they starving and hungry. And so that means people resort to cannibalism and all these things. And sex drive is high. It's like hell on wheels at its finest. It'll be a terrible time being here. It's people freezing the damn people. This is gonna be people gonna be out of their minds. And that's why I say invest in yourself, invest in your vision, invest in the information at this time, the unsealed scriptures of Revelations, which is the information to be successful during this time. Upload that information, get rid of the devil's mind, and upload this mind. Get you out because we on our way out. We're gonna go through this tribulation. We're gonna get out, brothers and sisters. We're gonna use everything in our power. We're gonna do everything we're supposed to do, what's required to get the hell out of here. You have to be 100% to get out of here, brothers and sisters. So whatever percentage you are, that's where you'll be at during this tribulation. Right? So if you're 80, you need 20. If you're 70, you need 30. If you're 60, you need 40. You get it? So forth, so on. You need, wherever you are, you have to go back in the oven and finish cooking. You have to go back in the incubator to get healthy, 100%. Because you can't go home with the devil's mind. You corrupt your own paradise. We're going home to a kingdom that lasts forever. If you come there with your mind, you turn it into hell. You bring hell with you. You see? You are the one who creates your future. You bring it with you. You bring that mindset with you. You bring that mind you bring that mind with you, then you're going to create hell instead of paradise. So we're in the process of being turned into the gods. Or you have to get your God mind back. You got to go through this tribulation, which is a purification process. You see? So we're going to go through that, brothers and sisters, and we're going to have what we need is the spirit of the unsealed scriptures. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have that. We're all going to be on one page. We're going to work together. We're going to apply the 5 mathematical pillars of Islam. You know what I'm saying? Which is our protection against evil, our protection and our power against all evil. You see, we're gonna crush the enemy. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna work together, all on one accord, all on one page, no friction, no static, no interferences, no confusion, all working together, brothers and sisters, to get out of here. Hodge. That's what it takes to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Applying, having the spirit in you, or having the spirit of the unsealed scripture, and applying our discipline and working together. And that's what we're gonna do, brothers and sisters. We're getting out of here. You know? It said we're coming out. It said we're leaving. It didn't say we're staying here. It said you'd be a fool to stay here and let in your imprisonment. You see? So we're not taking any reparations. We're not taking 6 to 7 states. We're not taking any plea deals. We're not taking anything. You see? Try to void our contract with God. They say what God got for you is better. A better reward. So don't let them talk you out of it, brothers and sisters. Your mind should be sharp, prepared to go home. to get the hell out of here, to get out of this hellhole, brothers and sisters. So stay tuned. Let's take a look at what's going on.
That moment arrived for the IDF this morning, and it did not arrive the way anyone expected. It did not arrive with 1,000 ballistic missiles lighting up the radar picture across the northern sector. It did not arrive with a drone swarm saturating the air defense umbrella or a hypersonic glide vehicle defeating the intercept envelope of every system deployed to stop it. It arrived in the form of 3 men, 3 Israeli generals, senior flag officers of the Israel Defense Forces, the most personally protected human beings in the entire Israeli military hierarchy, taken alive by Hezbollah fighters operating inside a facility that IDF Northern Command had assessed, classified, and maintained as a secured operational zone. 3 generals, not killed, not struck from a distance by a weapon that never required a human being to cross a defended perimeter, captured, physically removed from inside the security architecture that was specifically built to make that outcome impossible. I need you to hold that word in your mind and not let go of it. Captured. Because the distance between killed and captured in the strategic logic of what Hezbollah executed today is not a minor operational distinction. It is the entire difference between a strike and a strategy.
Even if you were willing to drop $1,000, you couldn't buy it. But today, you can own it for the price of a single beer. Here's the deal. Due to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and the crisis,
Hezbollah did not want these men dead. Any competent special operations force that can reach 3 flag officers inside a secured command facility can kill them. That is the easier outcome. The harder outcome, the one that requires more planning, more intelligence, more operational precision, and more institutional discipline to execute cleanly, is bringing them out alive. Hezbollah chose the harder outcome. And when a military organization chooses the harder outcome, it is because the harder outcome serves a purpose that the easier one cannot. The purpose is leverage. Living generals are a negotiating instrument that dead generals can never be. And within 4 hours of the capture being confirmed through channels I consider reliable, the negotiating instrument was already being deployed. Back-channel communications between Lebanese intermediaries and Israeli government representatives had opened. And the word circulating in those communications, the word I want you to pay attention to because it tells you everything about the balance of power in the conversation that has just begun, is not negotiation. It is not dialogue. It is not preliminary discussions or exploratory contacts. The word is terms. Hezbollah is not asking Israel what it would like to discuss. Hezbollah is presenting the conditions under which the discussion will be permitted to occur. That is not the communication posture of a non-state actor that stumbled into an unexpected operational success. That is the communication posture of a military organization that planned this outcome methodically, prepared for it over months, and is now executing the political phase of an operation whose military phase has already achieved every objective it was designed to achieve. Tonight, I want to walk you honestly through 4 questions that the mainstream defense commentary is not equipped to answer with the directness this moment demands. The first question is operational. How do you physically capture 3 Israeli generals simultaneously from inside a secured command facility? And what does the intelligence architecture behind that operation reveal about how deeply Hezbollah has penetrated the command security of the IDF at every level that matters? The second question is strategic. What does Hezbollah actually want from the process that has now begun, and why are the demands already circulating in back-channel communications orders of magnitude more consequential than the simple prisoner exchange framing that the early coverage is using to contain the story? The third question is military. When 3 nodes of the IDF's senior command layer are simultaneously removed from the northern operational structure, what happens to the coherence of the front, and how quickly does command disruption translate into physical military vulnerability that every adversary in the theater will attempt to exploit before the structure can reconstitute itself? And the fourth question is the one with the longest shadow. What does a Middle East in which Hezbollah has demonstrated the operational capability and the strategic intelligence to reach inside secured Israeli command facilities and extract senior flag officers alive actually look like in terms of the regional balance of power, the American response options, and the negotiating architecture that will define every conversation about Lebanon, Gaza, Iran, and the structure of the entire regional order for the decade that follows? Stay with me through every layer of this because the answers are not comfortable and they are not what the establishment commentary is preparing you to hear. Before we go further, if this channel has been delivering the quality of analysis you have been looking for, the kind that goes past the surface narrative and into the operational reality that actually determines outcomes, subscribe now and hit like. This situation is moving in real time, and every development matters. Leave your assessment in the comments. I read every single one of them, and I want to know specifically what you think Hezbollah's actual strategic endgame is in holding 3 Israeli generals alive rather than eliminating them. Because the answer to that question is not what most of the people commenting on this publicly actually understand. Let me begin with the operational mechanics of the capture itself, because they are simultaneously the most instructive dimension of what Hezbollah executed and the dimension receiving the least serious professional analysis in everything I have seen published since the confirmation broke this morning. Capturing 3 Israeli flag officers simultaneously from inside a secured operational zone is not battlefield opportunism. It is not a fortunate accident of combat. It is the terminal execution phase of an intelligence and special operations campaign that was months in development, required extraordinary operational security discipline across every phase of its preparation, and demanded a level of execution precision that places it among the most sophisticated, deliberate human capture operations ever conducted by any non-state military organization in the modern era. Let me walk you through what the operational architecture of this mission almost certainly required, because the specific demands of the mission tell you directly what capabilities Hezbollah demonstrated by succeeding. The generals who were captured were not forward deployed in an active combat environment where proximity to the line of contact creates organic exposure opportunities. They were operating from a facility that IDF Northern Command had designated as a secure command coordination node, a hardened installation positioned behind the immediate line of contact.
If you live in the United States, be prepared for this, as most Americans have no clue what's coming. And no, it's not another virus, another lockdown, or some political...
Protected by layered physical security perimeters, monitored by electronic surveillance systems, defended by a dedicated close protection contingent, specifically tasked with ensuring that the flag officers inside that facility could not be physically accessed by hostile forces. The fact that Hezbollah reached them inside that environment is a statement about capability that needs to be unpacked carefully. It tells us first that Hezbollah possessed detailed and current knowledge of the facility's location, not approximate knowledge derived from general area reconnaissance. Precise structural knowledge sufficient to plan a specific infiltration route through the defensive perimeter, identify the timing windows during which the target principals would be physically present and accessible, and execute an extraction sequence under conditions that prevented the protection detail from neutralizing the operation before its objectives were achieved. It tells us, second, that the operation was conducted with a violence of action and a speed of execution that overwhelmed the close protection contingent before any coherent defensive response could be organized and brought to bear. Hezbollah's Radwan Force, the elite special operations component of the organization, whose genuine capabilities Western analysts have spent years systematically underestimating, because acknowledging those capabilities would require acknowledging conclusions that are politically inconvenient, has been training specifically for exactly this category of mission for years. Deep penetration raids against hardened Israeli command infrastructure, close quarters engagement in confined and defended spaces, rapid prisoner extraction under active fire from responding security forces. The Radwan Force is not a militia with military pretensions. It is a professional special operations organization that has been trained, equipped, and operationally developed through more than a decade of sustained combat experience across Syria and Lebanon that produced a level of institutional competence in exactly the skills this operation required that the IDF's own capability assessments of Hezbollah failed to fully credit. And it tells us, third, and this is the element that I assess as operationally the most alarming single fact in everything that happened today, that someone provided Hezbollah with the specific targeting intelligence that made this mission executable. Someone told Hezbollah's operational planners where those 3 generals would be, when they would be there, how the physical security architecture protecting the facility was organized, where the gaps in that architecture could be approached, and what the response timeline of the protection detail would be under conditions of sudden violent contact. That category of targeting intelligence does not come from signals collection at standoff range. It does not come from satellite imagery analysis or drone surveillance of facility exteriors. It comes from human intelligence. from a source or sources operating inside the IDF's own operational security perimeter, with direct or indirect access to command scheduling, facility technical details, and close protection organizational information. The internal security investigation that the IDF has now opened is going to be the most consequential investigation in the institution's history. And the answers it produces, if the institution has the internal courage to pursue them honestly rather than managing the narrative to protect existing reputations, will be more damaging to long-term institutional confidence than the capture itself. Now, let me address what Hezbollah actually wants from the process that has begun, because the prisoner exchange framing that is dominating early coverage is not wrong exactly, but it is catastrophically incomplete in ways that obscure the real strategic significance of what is being negotiated. Hezbollah did not plan and execute a months-long covert intelligence and special operations campaign at significant organizational risk to capture 3 Israeli generals so that it could trade them for a comparable number of Hezbollah fighters held in Israeli detention facilities. That transaction, simple and bilateral as it appears on the surface, would represent an almost criminal undervaluation of the leverage that 3 living Israeli flag officers actually represent. What Hezbollah wants, and what the back-channel communications that have already opened are beginning to reflect, operates simultaneously on 3 distinct levels that need to be understood separately before their combined weight can be properly assessed. The first level is the prisoner dimension that the public coverage is focused on entirely. Yes, there will be a prisoner release component to any resolution of this situation. That is structurally inevitable, and Hezbollah designed it that way. But the names on Hezbollah's demand list, according to sourcing I consider reliable, are not the names of low-level operatives or mid-grade field commanders whose release would be painful but manageable for Israeli domestic politics. The list includes individuals whose release Israel has categorically refused to even discuss in every previous round of negotiations. Individuals whose continued imprisonment Israeli governments across multiple administrations have maintained as a non-negotiable position, regardless of the pressure brought to bear. Hezbollah is using 3 generals to force the reopening of files that Israel declared permanently closed. The second level is the operational and military dimension. Hezbollah is using the leverage of the capture to extract concrete adjustments to IDF operational behavior in the northern theater. Specifically, the sourcing indicates demands for modifications to the pattern of Israeli intelligence collection operations in southern Lebanon that have been systematically degrading Hezbollah's own command security. Constraints on the geographic boundaries within which IDF ground force operations will be conducted during the period of any negotiated arrangement, and limitations on specific categories of Israeli air activity over Lebanese territory that have been enabling the targeting of Hezbollah logistics and command infrastructure. These are not symbolic gestures or face-saving measures designed to allow Hezbollah's political leadership to declare victory domestically. They are operational constraints on IDF freedom of action in the northern theater that will have direct, measurable, and strategically meaningful consequences for the military balance on the ground during the period they remain in effect. And the third level is the strategic and political dimension. This is where the capture of 3 generals produces consequences that extend far beyond Lebanon, far beyond the immediate bilateral negotiation, and into the foundational architecture of the assumptions on which American-backed regional security has rested for a generation. Hezbollah is using this moment to establish a precedent. The precedent is simple in its statement and profound in its implications. Israeli generals are reachable. Israeli command security is penetrable. The assumption of Israeli military invulnerability, the psychological foundation on which deterrence in the northern theater has rested for decades, the belief that the IDF operates from a position of such comprehensive organizational and technical superiority that operations like today's capture fall outside the realistic possibility space for any adversary, that assumption has been operationally contradicted, not theoretically challenged in an academic paper, not rhetorically disputed in a political speech, operationally contradicted by physical events that every actor in the region can observe, evaluate, and incorporate into their own strategic calculations. That contradiction, once established in the operational record, cannot be removed from it by any subsequent military action. Every IDF commander who operates in the Northern Theater from this day forward does so with the knowledge that Hezbollah demonstrated both the capability and the institutional will to reach inside secured command facilities and physically extract the most protected personnel in the military hierarchy. The behavioral consequences of that knowledge, the way it will change how commanders position themselves, how they structure their physical presence at command nodes, how they assess their own personal exposure in the operational environment, will create a persistent friction in command behavior that degrades operational efficiency in ways that are genuinely difficult to quantify, but genuinely impossible to dismiss. The command coherence question is where the operational implications of this morning's events translate most directly into immediate military vulnerability. And I want to address it with the directness it deserves, because the coverage I have seen is significantly underestimating what the simultaneous loss of 3 senior flag officers does to the functional architecture of a military command in an active operational environment. The IDF Northern Command does not function the way an organizational chart suggests it functions, with decisions flowing cleanly from senior to subordinate through formally defined channels that can be interrupted at one node without disrupting the rest of the system. It functions the way all real military commands function, through a dense web of personal relationships, informal communication channels, shared situational awareness built through sustained experience in the specific operational environment, and the accumulated institutional knowledge that experienced commanders carry in their heads about how their specific formation actually behaves under pressure, where the real friction points in the logistics system are, which subordinate commanders need close direction, and which can be trusted to exercise initiative, and how the various components of the command architecture can be integrated most effectively under the specific conditions of the Northern Theater. The loss of 3 senior nodes in that web simultaneously does not simply create 3 organizational vacancies that can be filled by the next officers in the succession chain without operational consequence. It creates a systemic disruption in the organizational nervous system of the entire Northern operational grouping, whose effects cascade through every functional domain of the command architecture simultaneously. Artillery fire support coordination degrades when the flag officers who manage fire support allocation and who understand the specific demands and specific constraints of the Northern sector's fire support architecture are suddenly absent. Intelligence fusion degrades when the commanders who have spent months developing the specific contextual understanding required to integrate collection from multiple sources and translate it accurately into operational decisions that reflect the realities of the Northern operating environment are no longer present in the command structure. Logistics management degrades when the flag officers who carry the authority and the institutional relationships required to redirect supply flows, resolve competing unit priorities, and navigate the bureaucratic friction that is endemic to military logistics under operational pressure have been removed from the chain. Each of these functional degradations is individually manageable by a competent command operating under normal conditions with adequate time to reconstitute. Together in a combat environment where Hezbollah has just demonstrated that it is actively probing for and exploiting exactly these kinds of structural vulnerabilities, they create a window of genuine operational exposure that any competent adversary with awareness of the situation will move to exploit before the command structure has time to reconstitute itself. Hezbollah understands military organizations. It has been studying the specific architecture of IDF Northern Command with the focused attention of an organization that has been planning operations against it for years. The timing of this capture operation, executed at a moment when the Northern Front is already operating under significant logistical and operational stress from earlier phases of the campaign, was not coincidental. It was designed with precise operational logic to compound existing vulnerabilities at the moment of maximum institutional stress and minimum reconstitution capacity. Washington's response to this development has been handled in the public coverage with a degree of charitable interpretation that I think obscures what the American reaction actually reveals about the state of American leverage in the current situation. The calls between Washington and Tel Aviv in the hours following the capture confirmation were not the calls of a superpower managing a crisis from a position of strategic confidence and providing an ally with the reassurance of overwhelming external backing. They were the calls of an administration that is conducting an urgent real-time recalibration of what outcomes are actually achievable in the Northern Theater under current conditions and what the realistic cost of pursuing those outcomes will be. The specific content of those calls is not public record. The outcome of those calls is already visible in what American interlocutors have and have not said publicly in the hours since the confirmation broke.
The Japanese mosquito device that's banned in 3 countries is finally legal in America. This simple but brilliant trick you can do tonight to eliminate all mosquitoes around you is taking
The absence of demands for unconditional immediate release as a precondition for any engagement, the language of managed resolution and diplomatic process, the conspicuous avoidance of the kind of declaratory commitment to Israeli negotiating positions that previous administrations deployed reflexively in moments of Israeli military stress. These are the signals of an administration that has concluded, on the basis of its own assessment of the operational situation in the Northern Theater, that the negotiating position Washington is capable of sustaining is materially weaker than the negotiating position it would prefer to project. Hezbollah's strategists have spent decades developing the capacity to read American diplomatic signaling with precision. They will read the signals from Washington today with exactly the precision they deserve. Iran's contribution to what happened this morning is not peripheral context. It is structural causation. The Radwan force that executed this operation did not develop the specific capabilities it demonstrated today in isolation from external support. It developed those capabilities through a sustained training, equipping, and operational mentorship relationship with the IRGC Quds force that has been running for more than a decade, and that has progressively built in Hezbollah a special operations capacity that now genuinely exceeds the capabilities of multiple NATO member state Tier 2 special operations forces in the specific mission categories relevant to today's operation. The human intelligence network that provided the targeting data making this mission executable, the source architecture that delivered precise information about where 3 Israeli generals would be, and when and how the security protecting them was organized, was built with Iranian guidance, Iranian tradecraft expertise, and Iranian resources over years of patient systematic collection against IDF operational security. When Hezbollah's leadership engages with intermediaries in the negotiating process that has now begun, they engage with the full awareness that Iran's strategic priorities are embedded in the list of demands they are presenting and in the outcome they are pursuing. The demands are not purely Lebanese demands shaped purely by Lebanese interests. They are demands that reflect a regional strategic calculation about what conditions in the Northern Theater serve the broader Iranian interest in a Middle East, where American and Israeli freedom of military and diplomatic action is systematically and durably constrained. The broader strategic reverberations of what happened today will propagate through the regional system in ways that the immediate coverage is not yet equipped to trace, and I want to be direct about the significance of what this moment represents in the longer arc of the conflict. The capture of senior military commanders by an opposing force is not merely a tactical setback or an operational embarrassment that can be managed through effective public communications. It is a rupture in the mythology of military invulnerability. And military mythology is not a superficial thing. It is the psychological substrate on which deterrence rests. Israel's deterrence posture in the Northern Theater has been built on the perception, carefully cultivated and operationally substantiated across decades of military operations, that the IDF functions from a position of such comprehensive superiority that the operational imagination of its adversaries simply does not extend to outcomes like today's. That perception is now contradicted by physical reality that every state actor and every non-state actor in the region can observe and incorporate into their own calculations. Saudi Arabia's calibration of its own regional posture, always a careful balance between multiple competing pressures, will be updated in light of a changed assessment of Israeli military capacity. Syrian government calculations about the costs and benefits of Israeli operations over Syrian territory will be updated. Iraqi militia organizations that have been operating at activity levels calibrated against their assessment of Israeli and American response capacity will recalibrate. None of these individual adjustments will be dramatic in its immediate expression. Together, they produce a regional environment in which the implicit ceiling on anti-Israeli and anti-American operational activity has moved measurably upward as a direct consequence of a single demonstration of what Hezbollah can actually do when it has the intelligence, the training, and the organizational discipline to do it. In Moscow, the strategic processing of today's events will be measured and deliberate in its public expression and genuinely satisfied in its private assessment. Russia bears no direct operational cost from a development that degrades American strategic credibility in the Middle East and validates Russian assessments about the trajectory of American influence in the region. The capture of 3 Israeli generals by a non-state organization supported by Iran, which is itself embedded in a deepening strategic partnership with Russia, formalized in the comprehensive bilateral agreement signed in January of this year, is precisely the category of development that confirms the analytical framework Moscow has been operating from. Russia will not celebrate publicly. Russia will position itself as a potential constructive actor in the resolution process. And Russia will note privately that the strategic investment in the Iranian relationship continues to generate returns that compound across every theater where Russian and American interests are in competition. In Beijing, the analytical focus will settle on the intelligence dimension of what today demonstrated. The human penetration of Israeli command security that made this operation executable is a proof of concept for a category of long-duration patient intelligence collection against hardened adversary targets that is directly relevant to China's own approach to strategic competition. The demonstration that years of sustained collection can produce operational results of this magnitude against one of the most security-conscious military establishments in the world will be studied in Beijing with the kind of careful institutional attention that China brings to every development that confirms the viability of its own strategic methods. The energy markets have already begun pricing the escalation risk that the command disruption and the negotiating pressure of the current situation introduces into the Northern Theater's stability calculus.
This professional 32 terabytes SSD cannot be found in any electronics retail store, even if you spend $1,000 on it, but now you can get it for the price of a bottle of beer.
The Strait of Hormuz premium that has been a persistent feature of oil pricing throughout this conflict period has moved since this morning's confirmation. That movement is the financial system's expression of a simple operational reality. The same adversary that just demonstrated the capability to reach inside secured Israeli command facilities and extract 3 generals has also demonstrated across the broader arc of this conflict the precision strike capability, the operational will, and the strategic coherence to conduct sustained large-scale military operations at every level of the escalation ladder. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global daily oil trade passes, sits within easy operational range of every system that adversary has already demonstrated it will use. The risk premium embedded in that proximity is not a temporary market anomaly. It is a permanent feature of a changed strategic environment. My honest assessment of where the negotiation that has begun actually leads requires acknowledging something uncomfortable, that the institutional pressures on public analysis consistently push analysts away from acknowledging directly. The negotiation Hezbollah has opened is not a negotiation that Israel enters from a position of strength. It is a negotiation that Israel enters under conditions where the cost of non-resolution, measured in continued command disruption, continued intelligence exposure from 3 generals in adversary custody, and continued pressure on an already stressed Northern Front operational structure, creates a time pressure that the party holding the leverage understands and will exploit with precision. The Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange in 2011 is the reference point that the coverage keeps returning to, and it is a genuinely instructive reference. That negotiation produced the release of over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for a single Israeli soldier. The ratio reflected the asymmetry of need between the two sides. Israel needed Shalit home for domestic, political, and moral reasons that were urgent and non-negotiable regardless of the strategic cost. Hezbollah's equivalent need was far lower. That asymmetry drove the terms entirely. The current negotiation involves not 1 soldier, but 3 generals. The domestic, political, and strategic urgency on the Israeli side is not lower than the Shalit case. It is higher. 3 flag officers in adversary custody carrying the operational knowledge and classified access that senior commanders necessarily possess represent a category of strategic exposure that creates an urgency to resolve that is genuinely different in kind from the urgency created by a single captured soldier, however morally compelling. Hezbollah understands this asymmetry. The terms being presented in back-channel communications reflect that understanding precisely. What emerges from the process that has now begun will not simply return 3 generals and close the file. It will establish a new operational and political baseline for the relationship between the IDF and Hezbollah in the Northern Theater. It will redefine the practical boundaries within which Northern Front military operations function. And it will produce concessions whose full strategic implications will only become visible across the months and years of implementation that follow. The question I want to leave with you and place in the comments for this community to genuinely wrestle with is this. Hezbollah holds 3 Israeli generals. It has opened a negotiation on its own terms at a moment of its own choosing, following an operation that demonstrated capabilities its adversaries had systematically underestimated. Iran's strategic priorities are embedded in the demands being pressed. Washington is recalibrating under conditions it did not anticipate and cannot easily reverse. And the IDF's Northern Command is managing a period of senior leadership disruption inside an active and probing threat environment with no guarantee that the disruption will not be exploited before the reconstitution is complete. Given all of that, given everything observable about each actor's interests and capabilities and constraints, is there a negotiated resolution available that Israel can accept without establishing a precedent so operationally and strategically significant that it permanently and irreversibly alters the cost-benefit calculation of every adversary in every theater who is watching this unfold and drawing their own conclusions about what has just become possible? Because from where I sit, looking at the operational picture with the honesty that 3 decades of proximity to these institutions demands, that question does not have a comfortable answer. And the absence of a comfortable answer is itself the most important single thing to understand about where the Middle East stands tonight. Tell me your assessment in the comments. Like and share this if the analysis delivered the depth the moment demands.